And oh my God, you guys, by the way, before we get started, I have to tell you, the drivers out here in Chicago are crazy. I am.
I'll find that out.
Listen, it was Frogger dodgeball getting from the gym back up. Yeah. Okay, and welcome back to another episode of our TRI312 monthly, multi-sport monthly. And with me, as always, Coach Joy and Coach Chris. I am Coach Brian. We originally had a previously scheduled video recording to talk about all the things that have happened within the last several weeks, last month and a half, in the world of endurance sports and multi-sports. However, unfortunately, the audio did not want to cooperate with us, and we recorded on May the 4th. And since it's still technically those first few days of May, everyone, May the 4th be with you, and happy return of the 6th today. So how's everybody doing? How has your last few weeks been?
It's been
Pretty
very eventful.
Yeah, I think since the last time we recorded, there's been a lot of activity that's been going on as the season is getting started.
Yeah, and Joy, I know you've had, you say eventful, what sort of eventful things have been in your world lately?
Oh, just a little pivot in races, but that's okay because that's what we do in endurance sports. We pivot.
That's right. And great segue because we're now going to pivot to jumping right into the news of the day. And a little thing called the London Marathon just happened. So we're just going to kind of cover the basis of all the fun, interesting, unique things that are happening in sports or news to make sure you are aware of going forward. But Joy, London Marathon, I think some interesting things, to say the least, have happened over the last few weeks.
Exactly. So the London Marathon, not one record was broken, not two records, not three, but four records were broken. So let's start off with the men's world records. I did not think we were going to go below 2 hours until maybe the end of this year or sometime next year. Sebastian Sawe of Kenya did a 1:59:30. Yes, that is 1 hour, 59 seconds, 59 minutes and 30 seconds. So that breaks down to roughly a 4:34 per minute mile, or 26.2 miles. In second place, Yomif Kichocha, who is from Ethiopia, did 1 hour, 59 minutes, 41 seconds in his debut marathon and still placed second and still went under 2 hours. But wait a minute, there's more. Jacob Kiplimo, who is from Uganda, did 2 hours and 28 seconds, which is still faster than the previous record of 2 hours and 35 seconds that was set by the late Kelvin Kiptum at the Chicago Marathon in 2023. So that's mind-blowing. But on the women's side, Tigsta Assefa, who's from Ethiopia, broke the women's only world record in 2 hours, 15 minutes, and 41 seconds. Now, previously, she held the mixed gender world record for women in 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 53 seconds back in Berlin in 2023, which was surpassed by Ruth Getchich. I know I'm going to butcher her name, who broke it in 2 hours, 9 minutes, 56 seconds at the Chicago Marathon in 2024. So the question remains right now, will the world record fall again, potentially with Berlin or Chicago this year, because those are both flat races? And what did they do differently than us mere mortals can do? So there you go.
Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, it was fun to watch. I woke up at I forget, it was 3:30 or 4 in the morning to watch the marathon, and I had to wake my wife Shelly up to let her see the 2 hours being broken live. So it was pretty exciting. Yeah, I mean, I think we all knew it would happen at some point. We almost did it in Chicago, and the shoe technology is getting better, the nutrition and fueling is getting better, and the biggest things that I noticed were one that was really surprising was Kajelcha, the guy who finished in second place. He missed his fueling bottle at the 25-kilometer point. Like he reached for it and knocked his bottle over. And Sawe, I was really impressed because I've never seen this before. He kept fueling. He was like right on, his goals, his plan, start to finish in terms of how he wanted to pace it and everything. A perfect negative split by, just about a minute. So he paced it really, really well. But what I'd never seen before is with, I think, less than 8 minutes to go, they hit the last pro fueling tables, and he grabbed another bottle and took fuel in. So even with 8 minutes to go, with like a mile or two to go, he was still sticking to his fueling plan. And that could have been the difference that allowed him to win. Otherwise, Kajelcha would have done it. And, Kajelcha also did not fuel at the last table. So he missed essentially 2 fueling opportunities. And had he done that, he might have been able to win and maybe even go faster himself. So I'm kind of excited to see what they might be able to do in the future. But they all were on the women's side and the men's side. First and second place on the men's side, first place on the women's side, all had the brand new Adidas, the Adizero. Was it the Pro?
Pro
3. And that shoe apparently is, looking even better than the prior version. So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to see more records being broken in future marathons. I mean, we all know Chicago always has the potential. Valencia in the fall is always a big one to watch for potential records being broken. But because they're all Adidas athletes, and I think Berlin usually has a big Adidas showing, that's kind of like from a branding standpoint, that's Adidas's big race every year that they focus on from a partnership and branding perspective. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see that same group of runners doing Berlin. If not Berlin, maybe Chicago, and maybe we can see the record getting broken again. But yeah, they were very impressive, and it's like the things that Joy and I coach with our charity Team Days every year about like fueling and hydration and pacing, like doing that perfect negative split pace. And they I think they interviewed him afterwards about his fueling plan. His fueling plan was take basically. And I think they might have been doing 160 gram gels, but a gel every 5K. And for them, normally that's what we tell our athletes to shoot for. It's the same amount of fueling, but he's running twice as fast as most of us, if not faster. So he was basically taking in 100 to 160 calories of carbs every 14 minutes. So if you think about how many, that's 4 gels an hour, basically. So we're seeing that becoming more and more common, and yeah, it was just a matter of time, I think.
Yeah. And of course, Joy, thank you so much for the analysis, the numbers, the information. Now, from your perspective, looking ahead to what, as Chris alluded to, we might see some of these numbers continue to drop for future majors, Berlin, Chicago coming up. Then also looking ahead to 2028 Olympics, amongst all the other marathon majors going into 2027. Any thoughts or expectations of what you think you might see over the next 2.5 years?
I mean, in the next 2 years, because 2027 is a world championship year for marathon. So going into the Olympics, I do not see a world record falling, but I do see the world record being chipped away on both the men's side and the women's side. And just like Chris was saying, nutrition has gotten so much better, and let's focusing on the nutrition side, the fueling side, the shoe technology, but also, and another important thing is recovery, because at one point, no one really thought about recovery as that final piece of the puzzle. So could we get to potentially 155? Maybe on the men's side. Could we get to, for the all women's record only, could we potentially get under 215? I think it is possible. Could we get under 209? That is currently the record here in Chicago. Yes, it is possible. And we always say perfect weather conditions, 50 to 55 degrees, light wind, but London was warm this year. So what could possibly happen? We don't know. And it's going to be great to see. But on the side of the shoes, the Adizero, Adios Pro Evo 3, that shoe is under 100 grams. So that's a really light shoe. Podcaster said it felt like the weight of a styrofoam cup. That shoe did sell out. They do have it back in stock. It is $550. So if you want to try your luck, go right ahead.
So what I'm hearing is to shoot for a sub 210 marathon, you need a $500 shoe.
Exactly. And good running mechanics.
Oh, those two. Sure, of course. It has been very interesting to see all of the videos yet again online on the socials of athletes of all kinds trying to match the pace of the gentlemen that were sustaining that sub 2 hour pace for London. And so many of them were like, I lasted 30 seconds. I don't know how they lasted an hour and 59 minutes. So those are fun to see. And speaking of tall feats, we're going to shift over to triathlon, Ironman updates. And Chris, you mentioned having to wake your wife Shelly up to watch some of this. And I know she just got through completing her most recent Ironman down in Texas. So congrats to her first and foremost. And what were some of the fun takeaways from Ironman Texas? And then after that, second part, what are some updates as it relates to Ironman coming up over the next couple of months?
Yeah, Texas was pretty awesome. I'd done that race about 15 years ago. So it's been a little while since I was down there in the Woodlands, but it's the North American Championship. And just because of the way the Ironman Pro Series, like point system and schedule kind of works out, a lot of the pros wanted to do that race, to try to secure their Kona spots. So it actually had the largest pro field in Ironman history, outside of Kona. And I got to go down and cover some of it. So we got some good video and content. So it's fun to see. You know, it's kind of like if you ever do want to watch pros and you can't get over to Kona, if this continues to be like the big early season full Ironman race to do, going down to watch that race in Texas, I think would be pretty awesome. And yeah, the Norwegian hype train, Casper and Solveig and Gustav and Christian, a bunch of them were on our hotel on our same floor. So we saw them in the elevator a couple of times that week. And Shelly was lucky enough. Christian and the crew, they came out and they gave finisher medals to the final finishers. And so Shelly got her finisher medal at the finish line from Christian. And he gave her a hug and everything. So it was pretty cool to see them.
And to be clear to our audience, if you're not familiar with the people Chris is referring to, he is referring to Christian Blummenfeld, the current and by a wide margin, current world number one in Ironman rankings.
Yeah, and he almost broke the world record for Ironman distance in Texas, even though that is notoriously kind of a hot and humid race. Super fast bike course. The temperatures were cooler and it was overcast. It kind of stormed, so people later in the day got little rain, but the pros had like perfect temperatures for at least on the run, especially on the bike. So, you know, it was optimal conditions. It was a big field and top athletes in top form. So Christian was, I think, 11 seconds away or something like that from breaking his own world record, which was from Cozumel, where people were saying, oh, that had a current aided swim at that one. So they didn't quite consider that a world record. So this one basically is the new Ironman world record. But yeah, it was fun to see that for sure. And definitely a good race to consider. It was always rated was it the second best run course of all the Ironman races in the world, because it's a 3-loop course and it's super spectator friendly. So if you're ever looking for a spectator friendly run course, we got to stay at the hotel on the run course, go across this little canal back and forth and see people 3 loops and catch them actually 4 times each loop, only having to walk about 50 yards. So like super, super spectator friendly and fun in that regard. But yeah, that was that was fun. And then your second question, other things like for the Midwest, for us here in Chicago, some of the Ironman races have been changing. We've got Omaha 70.3 now instead of Des Moines. So that's a new Ironman race coming up in addition to Rockford. It's coming up here pretty soon, the next month. But the other news that just came out in the last week was that as Ironman left Des Moines always been a hotbed of triathlon. You know, for those that don't know, I think that was the Hy-Vee triathlon that was there was the first triathlon in history that had $1 million prize purse. So you just have a huge pro race back in the day. And so it looks like they partnered with USA Triathlon is now going to host the age group national championships for the next 2 years in Des Moines. So within driving distance for a lot of us here in Chicago. So we have
still Milwaukee this. Yeah, so still Milwaukee
still
this
Milwaukee.
year. Yep. Next 2 years will be over in Des Moines.
Yep. And I think, you know, they're realizing the recipe for the age group nationals that works well is pick a venue that is, you know, a good city, you know, hotels and everything, but in the Midwest makes it central to, you know, the East Coast, the West Coast, and the middle of the country. And the Chicago market being so big, you know, it helps to be able to tap into that. So they picked another Midwest city to have nationals at. So for us, we're lucky we'll have nationals, you know, within driving distance of Chicago for the next 3 years.
Amazing. So Ironman out at Des Moines, but USAT coming in. And speaking of USAT, also races coming up just next week will be the first multi-sports nationals over in South Haven, Michigan. So Chris, I believe you are also participating in one of the events out there. I know I've got an athlete or two that will be over there during the duathlons. So any thoughts, updates regarding the multi-sport nationals coming up next week, and how are you feeling about it?
Yeah. I've been doing the multi-sport nationals since they started it, about 3 or 4 years ago. It's moved around the country, and this year it's in South Haven, Michigan. And for those who aren't familiar, USA Triathlon, you know, for short course triathlon, hosts these national championships. And the big one is the age group national championships, which is in Milwaukee, and that has the sprint and Olympic distance triathlon that most people are familiar with. And that's the bigger event. Outside of the Chicago Tri, that's pretty much the largest triathlon in the country. But then the multi-sport nationals grew out of what was the duathlon nationals. So run, bike, run, multi-sport events. And they used to have sprint and Olympic distance duathlon nationals over a weekend. And so people could do both. And then they slowly expanded that and then included all other multi-sport disciplines. So now aqua bike, like swimming, biking, or aquathlon, like swimming and running, draft legal, non-draft, super sprint. So they have 2 or 3 races a day now for about 5 days in a row, including mixed team relays, like a team-based triathlon. And so it's a very much like a laid-back festival type of atmosphere. You can hang out all day. You can race in the morning, midday, afternoon, evening. I did, I think, up to 10 events in that 5-day period. I don't know if I'm going to do that many this time, but I'll definitely do at least a handful of them. But yeah, it starts on, I think, Wednesday with an open water swim. And then some of the other events include duathlons, but also draft legal races. And a new one they added because of the venue is a water slide triathlon. So you can start your swim going down a water slide. So that one should be pretty fun too.
Amazing. And I think it's good to know that this type of event exists for a lot of our either current or future listeners, anybody that might be even just remotely curious about multi-sport. Maybe they're familiar with doing a triathlon, or maybe being apprehensive about doing a triathlon because they may not feel as strong or have much experience in one of the 3 disciplines. Whereas something like this, you have a lot of different options. So for example, if you don't feel like you have a really strong swim or haven't swam ever before, you can still participate in something like the duathlon. If you don't own a bike, and that might be a heavy expense for someone, especially right now with our economy at the moment. But, you know, but swimming and running is something that you're into, aquathlon always a great choice. If you have knee pains and not a fan of running, do what I do an aquabike. So there's a lot of great other type of multi-sport events and options that people can explore, participate in. Even if you're a seasoned triathlete and you're looking to do some different things, another type of maybe even cross-train before another event that might be coming later on in the summer, another great way to do it. So it's nice to have something like this and also something relatively close by. So looking ahead to future multi-sport national events is the idea that this is still going to be popping into different cities and locations throughout the year. From your perspective, Chris or Joy, if you're familiar, what should we be anticipating if others are interested in this type of event, signing up for it and being able to participate for future years?
Yeah, I mean, it usually, or at least the last several years, it's been rotating venues every 2 years. So usually USA Triathlon puts out like a request for proposal or some venue to kind of partner with to host it. And so I don't know if it's been announced yet, if it's going to be still in South Haven next year or if it's going to move around again. But yeah, usually they do 2-year agreements and they try to move it around. So different races and different race directors could potentially bid to host it. But it's a popular, like for people who are familiar with like Ironman events and qualifying for Kona and going to Kona as an Ironman World Championship. These multi-sport nationals and the age group nationals are the pathway to go qualify for world championships in age group multi-sport events. And so I've qualified. It's the easiest way to qualify by far to go to a world championships and, wear the stars and stripe, kind of like a mini version of the Olympics for us normal people, regular age groupers. So we have much
normal
better
person
chances.
Olympics. Yeah.
Yes, pretty much. You get the nice, and at Worlds, you get the Parade of Nation, these opening ceremonies, and you get this little feeling that's kind of like, a small version of the Olympics. So for me, it's a fun excuse to travel the world in new venues. I've been able to go all over the place for these age group world championships. I encourage anyone to look into it. And it's really not as hard as you think. The age group nationals that people know that's in Milwaukee for Sprint Olympic, you do have to qualify to race at that. But the multi-sport nationals is a much smaller event, and it, generally speaking, at least in the past, has never required qualification. You can just sign up and do that, get your direct chance at trying to qualify for Team USA and earn the right, so to speak, to get the stars and stripes uniforms and then go, compete at world championships. And depending on your age group, some of the older age groups, especially, you just have to finish. They usually qualify a range of athletes. Like sometimes it's only the top, 8 up to usually like 18 or so. And some age groups don't even have 18 people in them. So if you finish, you can qualify for a world championship. So, it's definitely something fun to look at if you're looking for a new and kind of a little more laid back type of a triathlon experience, but that also gives you that pathway to challenge yourself to try to go to a world championship.
So multi-sport nationals, number 1, close by. Number 2, great way to maybe even enter the sport. And number 3, easiest chance to travel the world and represent Team USA. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, for those that are maybe looking for things that are a little bit more closer to home, Joy, talk to us about what are the first official, unofficial tries coming up this season that's not Rockford, that we are all familiar with. That would be the start of our Chicagoland Tri-Series. What's coming up?
So coming up just over the border in Hammond, Indiana is the Leon's Triathlon. So wonderful event is the first Sunday in June, always kicking off the season. The swim is in Wolf Lake. If you're afraid, have a little intimidated by Lake Michigan, Wolf Lake is a smaller body of water and typically generally a little bit warmer than Lake Michigan, even though Lake Michigan is 54 degrees right now. So it's slowly warming up for open water swim. Now, with that kicking off, they are also having this year a kids event, a splash and dash for the kids, a swim and a run. So the kids don't have to bike, they just have to swim and they just have to run. It's also a big championship for our military veterans, as well as Dare to Try, which is one of our training partners. That's their big camp that they have every year that culminates with the Leon's Tri. So after Leon's, if you're doing the Chicagoland Tri Series, hint, hint, you can go on the opposite side of the border to Wisconsin to the Pleasant Prairie Tri, which I believe is 2 weeks after Leon's. So that is another option. And then the Chicagoland Tri Series culminates with, of course, the Chicago Tri in August. So if you're new to triathlon, you can do the sprint at Leon's. If you're trying to see where your progress is, do maybe another sprint at Pleasant Prairie, or maybe do an Olympic and then finish off with the Olympic or the sprint at Chicago.
Great advice. And knowing that, as you pointed out, that Lake Michigan is a brisk 54 degrees right now. If somebody is, say, preparing for Pleasant Prairie being their first event this year, hypothetically, could they hypothetically or literally go to a practice swim in Wolf Lake before Leon's?
I believe Coach Chris is going to be hosting an open water swim clinic the day before at Wolf Lake on that Saturday.
Bruce, would you like to tell us more about that?
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, usually every year we host a
never mind. Let's pause and we'll edit that out.
So Leon's Tri, because they host that Dare to Try, the para and military and injured veteran training camp kind of leading into Leon's Tri, usually that Saturday of packet pickup is an opportunity where you can get and dip your feet in the lake and kind of get some swimming in open water. So stay tuned. I know they're working through a whole schedule of events for that Saturday, like the kids race in the morning. I think there's going to be a 5K run. They have a military challenge that's going to be happening around the packet pickups, a little bit more of a festival experience at Leon's Tri this year on that Saturday. And usually with that, we have like a little time where we can go and do some open water swim training. And Wolf Lake, generally speaking, is always at least 5 to about 10 degrees warmer than Lake Michigan because it's a much shallower body of water and it warms up a lot quicker. So especially if we get a nice little heat wave beforehand, that's really the best opportunity to get in open water when it's not too cold. Lake Michigan's usually still high 50s, maybe low 60s that first week of June. So for those who are looking for open water swimming opportunities, I think Leon's Tri is a great opportunity for that because technically the Chicago lakefront is not open for open water swimming until Memorial Day weekend, which is only a couple weeks away. Right now, the water temperature here at Ohio Street Beach is right around Alcatraz temperatures, so low to mid 50s. But by Memorial Day weekend, it'll creep up towards 60. And then for those who don't know, and you can look on the Chicago Park District website, cpdbeaches.com, they will post water temperature, water quality information, and everything once the lifeguards starts to go on duty, which always happens the Friday of Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend. And so lifeguards are then on duty from 11 a.m. till 7 p.m. every day of the week. So open water swimming is technically permitted in that window of time, just from Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day weekend. So we're looking forward to it. Usually if anyone's interested in joining us, we literally at 11 a.m. sharp on that Friday, I usually go out and do a little open water swim to inaugurate the open water season. So if people want to join in, you can do that. Or on Memorial Day Monday, we usually do the same thing. 11 a.m. We'll head down to Ohio Street Beach, have a fun little ice bath swim where we jump into the cold water and have a social afterwards. So our whole TRI312 Chicago community is welcome to join us then for a little unofficial open water swim practice as well.
All right. Well, bless you, sir, for doing that and sacrificing yourself to the freezing cold waters of Lake Michigan. And speaking of open water swims and being around downtown Chicago, we have the final days of your opportunity to sign up and register for the Chicago River Swim, which kicked off unofficially last year, where it was physically in the actual Chicago River. Looked like, sounded like an amazingly good time. Joy, I know you were out there doing support. And I know I've already signed up to have the opportunity to swim this swim coming up in September. And I believe we just have a few more days left for signups. So, Joy, tell us a little bit more about that and what's coming.
So, river swim, you have your choice of doing a 1 mile or 2 mile swim. Applications are closing on this Friday, May 8th. So, if you're thinking about doing it, sign up now. Now, you do
Shameless plug.
yeah, a shameless plug, but you do have to provide proof that you have done an open water swim in whatever distance that you are choosing to do. But also, it is a fundraiser for a long swim to help with ALS research over at Northwestern. So not only are you getting some exercise for yourself, you're supporting a good cause. I will be on support. I will not be in the river. I will be supporting Brian and possibly Chris if he decides to sign up. You can go to ChicagoRiverSwim.com .org, I believe, to sign up. I would do it. I have no problem swimming 1 or 2 miles. However, a week later, I will be in Berlin running the Berlin Marathon. So nothing new leading up to race day.
And we will gladly appreciate your support out there in the open water. So, Chris, what are your thoughts? You thinking about signing up for this one?
It looks tempting. We'll see. But I know Hootie, the guy who's one of the organizers, he's looking to get representation from every Chicago neighborhood. So if you know people in the Chicago area, they want to try to make it a real, representing Chicago experience. So
make a
know somebody who's a swimmer. Get them to apply.
And west sides. Yeah. So if you have friends who are on the far south side, far west side, and they're swimmers, give them a sign up.
And if they need practice, I was going to say, if they need practice events as extra motivation to support their training towards that, the organizer, Hootie from that event, he also helps put together the open water swim clinics for the Chicago Tri, which registration for that will actually be opening up pretty soon as well. So three swim clinics this year instead of the usual 4, but every 3 weeks leading up to race week of the Chicago Tri. And that's, perfect timing to build up towards the Chicago River Swim too.
Beautiful. Well, before we let everybody go, we're running up to our time here. Number one, enjoy, then congratulations and good luck in Berlin. I'm sure we'll be talking to you before then on another TRI312 Multisport Monthly. But the last little bit of news that I know we wanted to just let everybody know, or just sort of like have an awareness of, Chris, it sounded like there was a new shift in the virtual world with regard to Zwift and Ironman. So for our viewers, please let us know what that is all about.
Yeah, a lot of industry shakeup. But for those who are into indoor cycling or trying to train for, Ironman events and whatnot, Zwift has purchased Ruvi, another virtual cycling platform. So Ruvi had bought 2 other virtual platforms, Be Cool and Full Gas. All these different virtual cycling platforms have now been absorbed into one entity. So it'll be interesting to see for training. But yeah, Ruvi's the platform, the official indoor cycling, virtual cycling platform of Ironman. So you see them at the Ironman Expos, and they have all visually recorded, real world video, rideable courses of all the Ironman events. And now that Zwift owns them, I think it sounds like they're still going to keep the platform separate, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the future with that. Maybe we'll see some
Ironman
local triathlons. Yeah, in the virtual Zwift world. So that's kind of an interesting thing. I don't think we'll see any major, shakeout from that until probably another year or 2 from now. But it's interesting to keep our eyes on what's happening virtually. And we'll probably be hosting some virtual indoor rides. I know we have Ironman Rockford coming up here pretty soon. So, consider using platforms, any of the Ironman events that you're doing. I don't know if the Rockford video is up yet, but the other races all have their virtual rideable courses on Ruvi, and then who knows, maybe on Zwift in the future too.
Well, cool. Well, thank you for that, and thank you guys for another great update for all the information that's coming and events that are happening, things that are happening all over the world. So we will keep an eye on all of those things. And I believe our next Multisport Monthly will probably be sometime after a lot of these big events throughout Chicagoland have begun or have started or have concluded, such as Multisports, Rockford, Leon's, maybe going into Pleasant Prairie. So a lot of things to catch people up on next month, and then also any updates regarding any of the bigger events later on in the year, other local triathlon events, Chicago, Wisconsin, Michigan, et cetera, and so forth. So lots to keep our eyes on, give some more tips and tricks and updates for all of our viewers out there in the multi-sport world. So Coach Joy, Coach Chris, thank you guys again for all of the great information today. And we will see you all on another Tri312 Multi-Sport Monthly.